Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and welcome to the UI Challenge. What we're going to be doing here is cutting up this UI using HTML, SASS 1.0, and Flexbox. So just before we get to it, I'm going to hop over here just to the SASS website. And I just want to clarify, you're probably familiar with SASS. Most people know the files as SCSS, but just to tell you about SASS 1.0, which is just where you don't have the braces. I use SASS 1.0 just because I'm really old school and that's what came out first. SASS 1.0 is not old, it's just an alternate way of doing it. A lot of people were used to the braces, so they gave them that, and that's what's most commonly used, but I'm more of an indent fan, so that's why we are using 1.0 here today. So what we'll do is we'll make our way over to this code base. It is in this repository here called UI Challenge. I'll probably have this graphic included by the time you are doing this here. And one thing we'll have to do is install npm HTTP server, because we're going to need to serve that somewhere. So we'll make our way back to our application here. I'm just going to open a new terminal here in VS Code. So I'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to install that globally. HTTP server is really great when you need to serve up a single file. We have that in our public index HTML. And if we start this up, it's going to serve this file right there. So we'll go ahead and click on that. You can see it's the file up here. Not a lot going on here. And if you look down below, it's starting on port 8081. I am using a virtual machine, so mine is not localhost or 127001, but yours probably will be. And so if I go over here and refresh, that is this page right here now. Let's take a quick walk through some of the development files before we start cutting this thing up. So in your package.json, we have a variety of different files. We are using Webpack, and up here, this is how we are actually starting up the application. So we use npm run watch to watch the SASS files and have them compile out. If we make our way over to the Webpack Dev Js, this is a very simple one of our actual production one that we use, or our development one that we use. And all it's doing is it's saying, look for the file in application SASS, which will be over here, and output it to the public style sheets with CSS, and it outputs an additional file. So we just want that file to be deleted. Not that exciting to learn anything here, not our focus here today. But now what we can do is go ahead and actually do some applications or SASS stuff here and start cutting stuff up. So I'm going to split my terminal into two so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to do a quick ls because it's a habit to do that there. I'm going to type npm run watch, and that's going to watch for any changes in the application SASS file. So we'll go over here and we'll do a sanity check just to make sure that this is working. So I'm going to go here and notice that it's doing 4 spaces. Whenever you're working with an indent-based language, it always has to be spaces. Two tab, okay? So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and change that down below. I can do that in my editor here. Say use spaces, use 2. Things like YAML will just not work if it's not 2 spaces. And this is pretty much industry standard now, at least for senior developers. Juniors might be unfamiliar with it, so they're using 4. But that's just what it is. So what we'll do is go ahead and just put in a color. It doesn't matter what. I'm going to put in red here. And what we'll do is we'll make our way back over here and give this a refresh. Notice that it didn't take effect. I'm just going to double check to make sure the file outputted. It totally did. There's the color. So what's happening here is the browser is caching whatever was there before. So if we open up Inspector, okay, and go to your network tab, make sure disabled is selected. Though I think that's for JavaScript. Maybe it disables all of them. But anyway, the point is you have to keep this open. So I might just have it off screen here and give it a refresh. And I'll make sure that it always busts the cache, all right? Because it's always looking for that old file and we don't want it to. So now that we've done our sanity check, let's go ahead and just set up some basic stuff. It's always good to set up a background color, even if it's just white. And then we're going to set up some border boxing. You definitely want border boxing. This ensures that when you set a width 200 on an element, it's still width 200, even if you add margin and padding, okay? Border sizing. Oh, I think I got that backwards. It's a bit harder when you're instructing here. You get it backwards. Okay, so now that we have that set up, I'm gonna just set a default font here. So we'll go font family, type in Arial. That looks good to me. And we'll go ahead and give that a refresh. And there we go. And the font's in place. And also, I always like removing the margin and 0. I do not use any kind of CSS frameworks to set my stuff. I've been working with this since CSS came out, so I kind of know what we need to write in here. We'll just go ahead, and now that's nice, snug tight to the border there. Okay, so now that we have our base, what we're going to do, working in Figma here, you'll probably just have an image of the file. And honestly, you don't need to go digging around, figuring out all the sizes here. We're just going to eyeball it. because the thing that I want you to know is how to work with Flex. And I'm not too worried about the accuracy of this file. As long as our padding and margins are consistent and we keep our colors a bit consistent, it's good enough, okay? So what we'll do is we'll go back here, and just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to split this into two, and I'm just going to close that there, and we'll have our index file and our application SASS file working our from top to bottom. We're going to work with this header first, and so we have a few elements here. I believe we're using Font Awesome. I don't care about using Font Awesome today, so I'm not going to worry about it. So we'll just ignore the icons. But what we'll do is we'll go to the top here, and we're going to define a main element. You should always have a main, like that's the main one you should have. Used to be div class container, now it's main. And that's the first element. This is going to drive me crazy, so I'm going to make this 2 spaces. Okay. Doesn't bother you, that's fine, but for me, I'm going to go crazy if I have too much indentation here. So we're going to have our main, and then we're going to define our header. And in there, we had some elements there. So I think we had like a back button, and I'm just going to make this icon here for back. I don't know if that's going to give us an issue there. And then we had the profile dropdown. So I'm just going to call that dropdown here. We're not actually going to code in a dropdown today. I'm not too worried about it. We'll see how we make out, but I'm not sure. We'll make an avatar here. And that should be good to start with. So what we're going to do is go here. And actually, a lot of times for my stuff, I always scope the CSS up here in the top here. So up here, I'll have like a thing called location. And there's a good reason for it. But anyway, we're going to call this. And this is, what page is this? This is the exams show page. So we'll go ahead and there. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and now scope it to that page. So all the elements here will be that. In fact, let's just go make a new file. It's probably a good habit to do that. I'm going to make a new file here called defaults.sass. Okay, and what we'll do is just grab the stuff here and paste that on in. And we'll just use an import here. So we'll just say default. Yeah, I think that's right. Still complaining down below. I just check some local code here. I haven't done this recently. I'm used to using sprockets. I'm just going to make sure that I'm declaring that correctly there. I think we don't need the parentheses here. Is that going to make it happy? Hold on here. File to import, file unreadable, application SASS. Do we have it in the right directory? Maybe that's our problem here. It might be obvious to you, and it is. It's in the wrong place. So I'll just move that over. Move. Okay. And we'll go ahead and run that. And now we don't have a problem. We'll make sure that it's actually compiling it out because sometimes it might not work. It's always good to double check your stuff here. And it looks like it's working. I'm just going to go ahead and just add one thing. We're just going to do a sanity check here. And yeah, it's outputting fine. So we're not having an issue there. This is all good. Okay. So now, oh yeah, we want to put that there. So I usually follow for my SASS files either based on the component, exactly what it's named, or based on what the view name is in Rails. But anyway, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll just make a new folder here called exams. And in there, we're just going to make a new file here called show.sass. And what we'll do is go over here, and I'm just going to go and type in exams show. And now what we can do is scope everything to this. So we'll say body, location, exams show. And then we can just scope our functions here. If we had all this in like a real project, we'd probably break all these, well, where did our project go? We'd probably break all these elements, these main elements into components and have individual SASS files for them. But just to make our life a lot easier, I'm just going to work with a single file with this exam show here. And so we're working with the header. And this is, I have no idea how to default this to 2 spaces for everything. So you're going to see me doing that a lot. Just going to double check. Yeah, that's fine there. And so that's what we're going to start with. Our background here looks like it is some nice light gray there. So I'm just going to go set any kind of gray. I don't care for the purpose of this here. And we'll set that on our main. Whoops. It really wants to autocomplete. I'm a Vim user. I do not use VS Code day to day. Okay, and we'll just say 240, 240, 240. That is a great color. and we'll make our way back to our app here, give it a nice refresh, and we can see our background is gray. It's not going all the way to the bottom, so what we're going to do is set a height 100%. Very good habit to always do this, is just have height 100%, because you're always going to want it anyway. And we'll make our way back there. I'm going to close the tabs I'm not using, like this one and this one. We'll go ahead and refresh that. Now our gray's all the way to the bottom, and we'll make our way back here, and we'll go to our exam show and work on our header here. So we're going to need a background, RGB 255, 255, 255. It's really easy to work with RGBs because once you know the range, it's like you can plug them in. I rarely ever work with hex codes unless I'm lazy. I'm just copying, pasting them from a design. So we have the background there. We're not seeing anything yet. We'll say padding 16 pixels. And we will go back here and give it a refresh. I'm not seeing anything change. So again, sanity check. When we start a new project, we need to get the flow in, just start checking stuff. So it looks like that's working properly. So why is it not doing that? What we'll do is give this an inspection. Whoops. And we'll take a look here. And so it's not applying any styling onto it. And so if we're not sure, we can just go open it up in here, just make sure it's actually in the browser. And it is doing it. So if it's not working, it's probably because of this part here, right? So we'll make our way back here. It says location exam show. There you go. There's always a logical way to debug things. Once you've done it enough, you know exactly what steps to follow. So we'll go ahead here and give it a refresh. And now we're starting to see our bar there. And we just want to get some of those buttons in there. It says course name. So we'll go ahead and come back here. And we'll need a course name. So we'll just call this title or name. Name's more generic, probably better use that. So we'll just say my course. And what we're going to do is use display flex. Now, if you want to know how to work with flex, there's a page on it called Flexbox CSS here. And pretty much everybody uses this. Every time I have to look something up, I go and look here. There is a way to use shorthand flex. I have no idea how to use it, so I just put everything longhand. So if you're wondering around writing things out and you're good with CSS, that's just because. But what flex is going to do is it's going to then tell, like it's going to allow you to control it in a certain way. So as soon as we do that, all elements will start flowing left to right, which is what we want for that element. That's what it's by default. So go ahead and refresh there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at that back there. And we're going to give that a background RGB. Actually, we're going to call that a button because all those are buttons. So just say button. Okay. And we'll give it a darker gray. So our background is 240. We can do 240 here. I don't think it's a big deal. And we'll just bump up the font here. So we'll say 16 pixels. And we might as well bold. Font weight 600. And we'll go back here and give this a nice refresh. And I'm going to go and give this some padding. So let's say 24 pixels. And I want a border radius. And we'll say 99999. That's like the max you can go. It makes sure it's 100% round. And I want that perfectly round. It's a bit tricky when you have it with font and stuff like that. So in this case, I'll probably just set it manually. So I'll just say, instead of doing a padding here, I'm going to give it a width of, I don't know, 32 pixels and a height of 32 pixels. Notice I'm always working with 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 128, like numbers of like that. It just makes it a lot easier to work like that. We'll go back here and give it a refresh. And I want to center that, so I'll need to make this a flex object. I'm going to have to align content, and we're going to go center. And I'm going to say justify content, and it's going to be center. So this is going to, using flex, if you actually want to look up line items. Whoops. I said align content, but I actually wanted line items. If you go here, I mean, you have justify content, and so what that will do is you have those options, and so I'm using center, so I'll move it center. And then you have line items, and that's going to move it center, okay? So one's going to vertically center it, one's going to horizontally center it, so I don't have to goof around with padding. And so what we'll do is just change that to line items. That autocomplete is trying to be helpful, and it's not doing the thing I want it to do. And so there we go. Now we actually have it perfectly round. I'm going to want that a little bit larger because the design looks like it's more like 40. Okay. And I'm going to want this center as well. So if we want to center that, coming back here, align items is going to center it for a flex object. And this is flex up here. So we're going to say align items center. And we'll make our way back here. And so now we have that like that. We want to have a drop down, which has an avatar in it. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to actually call this, it's technically not a button because some of these are buttons and some of these aren't, but it has the same styling. So in this case, I'm just going to make this avatar slightly different. Also, I'm going to just put my initials in there. So I'm going to say AB for Andrew Brown. Okay. And I'm going to have the drop down here. And we'll put the avatar in here. And I'm going to make this slightly different. It's going to be very similar, but I'm just going to make it a different color just to signify that it is different. So we'll just change one value there. Go ahead and refresh. And now we got to get it to the over here onto the right-hand side. So the way we do that is we can use flex grow. And so what we're going to do, if I just go up here and look for flex grow, what you can say is tell the object to grow and use up all of possible space. And so for this design, it seems like name's okay. Like if name went all the way over to here, that'd be totally fine with me. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say name. I also notice that when I write my CSS, I'm generally writing it in the order that it appears. So I have the button or back, that's more of a generic one. I have the name, and then I have the drop down or avatar. Okay. And so what we'll do is go ahead and say flex grow 1. All right. And we'll flip back here, and that should be growing. Making sure I save that file. And if it doesn't work, we can go ahead and inspect it. So we'll go here and make sure that flex grow is applied. Notice that it's crossing it out. That means we made an error. I probably spelled it wrong, and it's grayed out. So that should also be an indicator, but I'm going moving so fast I don't even notice. We'll go back here, give it a refresh, and now it's pushing it all the way over there. If I go inspect that element, whoops, we don't want to be in that mode there, but see how it's pushing, it's growing the element to the end. So that works really well for me. I notice that this has a little bit more spacing in the design on the left and the right than the top and the bottom. So I'll go up here, and what we'll do is give it 24 top and bottom, left and right if you do it that way, okay? There we go, that's looking a little bit better. I wanna push the name a bit to the left. So we'll go here, I'm gonna use padding left, and we'll say 24 might be too much. We'll just say 16. There, that looks okay. Might wanna bold that. You never want to use true black in an application. So you always want to use an off gray. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Only use gray or black when you really need it. So we'll just say 000 is black. So we'll just go up a bit. We'll say 40, 40, 40. Okay. And that will soften that a bit there. So that's a little bit easier on the eyes. Probably should do that also for the avatar. But actually what I'll do for here is I kind of want to blend it into that there. So I'm actually going to make it black for this one. It's okay to make it black, because I'm going to use transparency. So if we add another value and put an A on here, now it's going to be slightly transparent. I'll go back. And so it'll kind of blend into the color. I can even go a bit farther and say like 3. There we go. That looks a lot nicer, I would say. These would be clickable. So what we'll do is we'll just give them a hover effect. So we'll go down below here. I'm going to say cursor pointer because they aren't links. Because it's a web app and I want this to show up when I do that. And we will do a hover here, and we'll just take this color here. And we want to get darker, I guess. So we'll go down to just one value there. And we can do that as well for our avatar. But I'm going to apply it on this here like this. So we will just go down below like that and say avatar. And I'm going to just take the color and bump it up here. So we can take that as 8. And we can also intensify the background a bit there. And so if we want to do that, we can turn this to 255. And so I hover over there. That looks a little bit better. And this one, you can't really tell. So we'll just bump that up a little bit. But this is what it's like, you know. This is all you got to do as a developer, like for designer. Okay. So that might be a little bit more extreme. We'll give that a go. That looks okay. And we need the cursor on that one. So what we'll do is go ahead here and copy the cursor, and we'll put it here at this level here. Yeah, so that looks all right for the that section there. So now we'll work onto the body here. So we have like a multi-column design. We have this top element here, and then we have these other ones. So we'll work on the readiness meter next. So we will go here, and I'm going to make a new element, and I'm just going to wrap all of this. Actually, I'm going to use article for this. Even though it's not like an article per se, it's just easier to do it this way. And that's going to be our main area here. So we're going to have, right, our header, and this whole area below is going to be the article. And so we're going to have our element, which is our readiness meter. Readiness meter. That doesn't look right. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll just make it top level here. Like the way I'm doing this is I'm isolating these into components, right? In fact, we could just make these in components. We'll just do that. Why not? It's not that hard. We'll make a new file here, and we'll call it, this is the header SASS. And then the next one here will be readiness meter. Okay, and then we'll have to go back to our code here in a moment. So, but the nice thing is that if this is going to be global, then it's fine doing that, okay? Because we'll probably use the header everywhere, right? So I'm confident this is going to be the same everywhere, so we're just going to go ahead and remove that. And we can just go and delete that out now, like that. I'll just delete that for the moment. And we might have a use for this exam show page for generic things, but or for overrides of actual components. For the time being, it's just going to be empty. I'm going to go over to our application SASS, and we'll go down below here. And I'm going to go ahead and make it like this. And we will go ahead and include a component. And so we'll have header, and then we'll have the readiness meter. And while we're here, we might as well go ahead and make the other one. So we have practice your deck, cheat sheet, frequently asked questions, journey, practice deck. Nah, we'll just wait. We'll just do it one by one. I'm always changing my mind. So we'll go here, make sure everything's fine. Now it's all broken. So we have an error down below. Let's get that out of the way. Import components readiness meter doesn't know what it is. I must have spelt something wrong, which is not surprising for me. Yeah, there's a spelling mistake. There we go. And so we'll go ahead and start cutting up this component. And so the thing is that this component probably isn't going to show up on any other page other than the exam show. And so here I like to just scope these, because then if for whatever reason, if you do have it on another page, you know, like I just find that if you don't know that it's going to be a global feature, then just treat it as a local one first and just scope it, eh? So we'll just call this exam show. And then we'll just say readiness meter. We'll make our way back here. And we're seeing a lot of these white boxes here. So well, how about we make our own little utility function here, or CSS thing here. And we'll just go into the defaults, because this is a great place to put it. I'm just going to call this area. And so what we'll do is we'll put a background on that. That's going to be white. We're going to have a nice border on there. So we'll say border solid. We'll make it really, really light. So we'll say 250, 250, 250. We'll give it a little bit of rounded corners. When you're working with like professional designers, all this stuff usually has like an inspector and will tell you the exact values of it. But again, I'm not giving you this asset file here, so I just want you to eyeball it. So we'll do a border there, and then we'll put on a border or a box shadow. Let's just say 1 pixel, 1 pixel RGBA. You always do that. And the thing is, like, I never know what to do for this, so I just put any value in here, and then we'll just go ahead and tweak it in Inspector. And so we have some common elements that are going to be like that, so we'll make our way back here, and I'm going to just say area. Some CSS libraries use a lot of utilities here, so they'll have a lot of stuff on here, and also our button we could probably extract out as well. I'll leave it alone, because I don't know how many more circle buttons we're really going to have. But all I'm saying is, like, you could have like Bootstrap where it has like a lot of stuff where it's just like green and big and stuff like that. And we don't do that because a lot of times we want to have a little more flexibility with our CSS. And so, yeah, sure, it might make styling a little bit faster, but there's issues like when you're like, I have an open source application. As soon as you start littering your HTML with all that stuff, it's really hard to make like styling templates. So I just kind of meet it in the middle, and I make very light versions of utilities. So what we'll do is we'll make our way back here. I'm just going to put anything in here. It doesn't really matter. And we'll go ahead and give this a refresh. And so we have that component. I'm just going to give it a little look here. And we'll just give a bit of spacing for the article there. So we'll go back, and this is going to be probably global. So I'll just put it here. It's probably going to happen on all pages, right? We'll just say padding 40. I'll put pixels on the end there. Okay, and so we have a little bit of room there. And also, it looks like it's going to be constrained to width. That looks like 1,110, so I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to say margin 0 pixel auto, and I'm going to say width 110. Okay, and so what we can do is just make our box shadow look a little bit nicer. So up over here, I can just click this and play around with this until I like it. So what we can do is make this a little bit more blurry, bring out the spread a little bit, and I can change the offset. Right now it's 1:1. I think I want it 0. No, I want it 1, but I want this 0. Okay, and that's still a little bit strong, so we'll go here and I can just play with this. Okay. And I don't know if I want the border on here. Let's just take a look. Yeah, I don't think we need the border. So that's the setting I want now. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. I've never seen I've never seen that do 11%. I didn't even know you could do that. That's the first time I've ever seen that. I'll give it a go. I'm actually really curious now. If it's 11%, no, I don't think you can do that. I think it's just formatted it weird. If it's 11%, it's going to be 011. Let's give that a go there. It's weird that Chrome did that. Usually it outputs the value. Maybe I had to double click. I don't know. We'll go ahead there. It looks pretty much the same. I'm going to go ahead and remove the border. I don't like it now. And generally it looks like, no, they don't all hug, but I was going to give it like a generic padding, but we'll have to do that per element. So now that we have that, we'll make our way back to the readiness meter, and we'll give it a padding. And again, I'm going to have to set the spacing here. No idea how to set that by default. I'll just say 16 pixels here. Make our way back, give it a nice refresh there. And that looks okay. Probably has a bit more padding than that, 24. All right. And what we'll do now is we'll have readiness meter, we'll have that stuff there, and we'll have that. So we'll make the meter first because that's more fun. So I'm going to say, we'll say meter, and then we'll say bar. And I'm going to go in here. Meter. Bar. And I'm just going to say width 30%. We'll give it a background, RGB. I kind of like that color, so I'm just going to go and look for it. It's this. If you're ever trying to like get the RGB value, that doesn't matter. I'm just going to paste it in. I was going to go Google it to show you that, but I don't think it really matters. So I'm going to grab that there, FB7A2F. I think that looks kind of nice. And then we'll say border radius 9999 pixels. We want that fully round. We're going to give that a gray background. So we'll say 220, 220, 220. And we are going to want to have it overflow auto or overflow hidden, because it's just sometimes there's like rendering artifacts when you're rounding things and you have elements you want to cut off. So that's why I'm adding that there. I don't see anything, so it makes me think that the styling is not being applied. Meter, that looks good to me. The bar, it's because it has no height. So if I go in here and set a height and say, 10 pixels here. So now it's showing up. And this, I could set it as absolute. I usually don't use flex for that, but yeah, we'll use absolute. I'm just used to doing it that way, so we'll just type in absolute. We'll have to set the position up here as relative. Okay, if you don't do that, it's not going to know what element is relevant to it. So if I do this here, okay, I have to give it a height of 100%. Okay, see how it's going all the way top to bottom because it's saying the relative one is actually the article or whatever actually has relative there. So as soon as we put relative on this, it's going to scope to that. And again, we don't have a height on this. That's why it's not working here. So we'll just say 20 pixels. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to make it 24. Great. So now what we need is the title there. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to make a new element here. I'm just going to call it heading. I'm going to call it readiness heading, actually. And what we'll do is we'll say we have the name. So this is readiness meter. And then we have the star count on the right-hand side here. So I wonder if we can just go grab a star quickly. So we'll just say emoji star. There we go. Not as nice as font awesome, but it's going to work for our case. Okay, and we'll just say star count. Stars count. And then we'll just, in there, we will, I will just have the icon here. So we'll just say class icon. Okay, and then we'll just say 5 out of 10. And so now we have that there. So we'll go ahead and refresh that. Take a look. It's inside of it. So if it's inside of it, there's something messed up with our element. The bar's down here. It's because we put it in meter. It's supposed to be on the outside of meter. Whoops. So we'll go ahead and grab that there and paste that on the outside. We'll grab that there. Sometimes what I'll do if I have a lot of tags like this, I'll just put the ends on here. It sometimes helps if you have a lot there. Like if you write readiness meter there. Okay. But I generally don't work in HTML. I work in Haml, which is like SASS. It's indent based. Okay, so we'll go ahead there and give that a nice refresh. So now it's above. We need this to float left and right. So learning what we learned, what we can do here is we can have readiness meter here, or readiness heading. What we can do here is say display flex. We want that name to go all the way to the end, so we're just going to give it flex grow. We're going to want these to be centered, so we'll say or centered vertically, so we'll say align items center. Okay, and we'll go ahead and give this a nice refresh. Looking better. We'll say padding bottom 12 pixels. That looks a little bit off. It's because they're wrapped in the stars count. Actually, they're loose. So what I'm going to just here is call it progress here. I really don't like that autocomplete. When I use Vim, it doesn't actually autocomplete anything for me. I have to type everything, so I'm not used to it throwing those div tags at me. So now we'll go to progress here. And actually, when I start getting nesting like this, I start breaking it up like this just to make my life a little bit easier. This also kind of indicates as to where you should have a component, eh? So I'll go here and we'll say display flex and we'll align center. Sometimes it's like a little bit off. See how these are a bit off here? Sometimes what you can do is do line item or line height 1 EM, and that will fix that issue. See how that fixed it? It's a little bit better. It's just because this is always going to be odd because it's a emoji. So in this case, what we'll have to do is just give it a bit of padding. Normally I wouldn't do this, but in this rare case, this is where I'm going to do that. Padding top, 6 pixels. We'll go back here. Okay. We'll just say 3. Don't like doing that, but that's just what we have to do. Padding right, 8 pixels. Whoops. Let's go ahead and refresh that there. That's looking pretty good. I think our name's supposed to be bold. I've been doing this for years that I can pretty much remember, like if you gave me any design to cut up, like I'd remember most of the components even before jumping back there. So it's pretty normal for me. I think we're gonna just set the default color there to be a little bit more gray there. Just because I think that if we always have that black color, it's not gonna look great. So what I'm gonna do is just set it on here. I think we did 40, 40, 40. And then what we can do is go to our header and then remove that there. Okay. All right, and that's a lot softer. So now we have our readiness meter done. That's pretty good. What we'll do is just do this next part here. And we're not gonna do all of it, but we're just gonna do a little bit more here, okay? And so I have this journey area and then this here on the right-hand side. And we have a bunch of elements in columns. So we have practice your deck, cheat sheet, frequently asked questions, okay? So that's gonna be deck, cheat sheet, FAQ. So what we'll do is we'll go down below here. Actually, this is the readiness. I meant to write readiness, I think, heading here. But just for these components, I'm just gonna write this here. Readiness meter. And so in order to do this, we are going to need probably a column. Yeah, these are 2 columns. So what I'm going to do is just make 2 here. So I'm going to first wrap it in something. So we're just going to say content. I don't think I've used that anywhere yet. So we'll say content. And then here I'll just say column. And column. Generally, you don't want to describe things as columns, because column might indicate that it's going to be vertical, but like if you want to reuse your CSS, you usually would use something that's more generic, that doesn't necessarily define its styling, but I'm not going to do that today. And so we have the journey in here. I'm going to put that as area. And then we're going to have the practice exam. Or practice sets, that's actually what they're called. And then down below, we are going to have, the first one was deck console. These are actually all consoles. I'm just going to call these consoles. Actually, they're not. I'm changing my mind every 2 seconds. Eh? We have deck. We had FAQ. And we had cheat sheet. And all these are going to have headings in them. So here, I'm just going to make a new one here. I'm going to call it area heading. Practice exams. And I'm pretty sure I have it as name, and then probably I have a button on the other side here. And this is actually where I'm going to break out my utility here. So we had this, we had that BTTN, and I've now decided that I'm going to have some reusability there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this here, make my way back here, and this is going to be a global thing. These are like utilities, so they're not really components. That's why I'm not making separate files for them. So we have a button here. This one also is kind of restricting on it being round. So I could say like button icon. Maybe button icon here. There's only a few things I want to grab out of here like this. And we want to take the border radius like that. And we can have a nice little light border there. Okay. We're gonna have to go back to our header here and update it. So up in our header, we now have button, and it's button icon. But again, like I'm not calling these things like blue, big, stuff like that. It's just more descriptive of what it is, as opposed to like what it should look like. And so coming back to here, now we have some of our button styling here. And what we can do here is go back to our defaults here. Where's our defaults? And we have button icon. Maybe we could have like button standard, because this is going to need a little bit padding here. So we'll just say padding 8 pixels, 24 pixels. Seems fine by me. And oh yeah, I'm going to just put that on like that. Make our way down here. And I will say button standard. Okay. So console. Now let's see if all those changes took effect here. Yeah, it looks okay. This needs to be, I think, display inline block here. So it's because the blocks will automatically expand like that. That looks better. Does it have? Yeah, it's really light. I'm going to just bump that up a bit. Say 6. We don't want to go crazy here. And so we need some margin on our area there. I think it's safe to put it on all of them. Margin bottom 24 pixels. Okay. And so now we have that area heading. That's kind of a global component, but it's always going to be scoped within this. So I'm going to do it here. And we're just going to say padding 24 pixels. We know there's always going to be names, so we're going to give that a flex grow 1. Yeah, we want to probably make this display flex. Align items, center. Go ahead and refresh. I'm not seeing my name in there. I must have made a mistake. Yep. Really don't like that autocomplete. Great. We can give her a heading here, flex, weight, 600. If we put in a nicer font, it'll all look a lot nicer, but we're using what we got. Do not like the spacing on that button. Let's take a look at that. So I don't like dragging things around in Windows. What can we do here? I think the problem really is just the font size here. Font size 14. Yeah, that's the best we're gonna get it to look without changing. It's mostly the font that I think is the issue really, and a few other things. But what we'll do is we'll just go down here, and it was here, so I'll just change this to 16. We'll say font size 14. And actually, it's because this one's giant up here. I think we set it as 16 there. We thought we had a larger, like 22. I guess we didn't. Go ahead and refresh. Yeah, it looks okay. If we look at the design, I think it's. Oh, you know what? I don't even have. I don't have anything on there. Well, that's fine. Whatever. I guess I thought there was like a button there, but that's totally fine. So what we're going to do is get that column in there. So the next thing we need to do is go down below here. And we're not going to do it in here. This is very specific to the exam show page. And so these aren't really components. They're more just ways of style, like grouping these other components together. So what we're going to do is now use that exam show. And we actually have a use for it now. Like that's what I'll use like the generic pages for, like elements I don't really want to put part of a component styling, but it's just specific to this page. Okay, and so here we have the, dot content, and we're going to have column. And so here I'm just going to say primary column. I'll just call it primary and secondary. I'm very wary about naming things without like uniquely across things, just because some other components might use them. But I think we'll be okay. Primary, secondary, and we'll say width 60%. And we're almost done here. We're not going to do all like everything inside the components. I just want to get the general layout here. We're having our spacing issue here again. Bring that back. We'll go ahead and refresh that there. Good. And so now we just need to add to all our other components. I'm going to give some of these a standard height. So we'll give go here, and I'm going to go to area. I'm just going to say min height, just so we can see them right now, because I can't seem to see where they are. Yeah, 40 pixels. There we go. So they're actually all are there. And I'm going to drag this down. This has been just in our way the entire time. And so what we'll do here is add the name. So I have this here. I'm just going to condense this a little bit so it's a bit easier for copying. And we'll just open these fellas up. Okay. We're going to go ahead and grab that heading. Okay, recently asked questions. Oh, actually, might just be, yeah, I'll leave it like that. Doesn't really matter. Cheat sheets. This is practice deck. Okay, we'll go back here, give it a nice refresh. Looking pretty good so far. These are all contained in a column. Oh, the issue is because we haven't set flex on this, so we say display flex. Okay. And that looks fine there. The columns need to be flex as well, and they're going to just be columns. So we'll go here, and we'll say flex direction column. Actually, we'll just do that on the column itself. We don't need to do it on the primary and secondary here, so we'll just do that. Should be taking effect. Did I not save that? Sure, looks like I did. Content, column, exams show. Okay, well, we'll take a look then. So we'll go ahead and inspect here. I'm just going to shrink this a little bit better so it's a bit more manageable. And if we go ahead and look at our column, we can see it does have a flex direction on it as column. So that one is actually working, no problem. So you know what? It's probably because these elements, yeah, these elements aren't even inside of it. That's the problem. And that's the classic issue with HTML. It's just like you can't keep track of what's what. So that is for content. Okay. And then this one is for column. So it looks like it's inside of it, but I can tell right away that there's this thing here. And I don't believe that goes to anything. So maybe it's just extra div. Okay, so I mean, that's looking a little bit better, I suppose. We'll take a look here. These are still on the outside, so I have a problem down here. Still have a problem. Okay, we have this one here. Oh, there's another one. Darn those divs. There we go. And so now we just need a little bit of padding in between those there. I don't know why this is missing. I guess that's the journey. So we'll go up here. It just keeps on adding an extra div. It's that darn autocomplete. I'm not used to it. And so now we need a bit of padding on this. Technically, we need margin. Let's give it a go. Right. 16 pixels. Yeah, looks okay to me. Yeah, and we'll just put a little bit in here. We'll put the buttons in below. So what we'll do is we will add the download button for the cheat sheet, wherever that is, down here. We're going to need an area for our content, so I'm just going to make a new one called area content. Okay. And back in our default here, we'll go down and we will add an area content. I believe it's padding 24 in our heading. Yep. Just so it's the same there. We'll just have button standard. Okay. We'll say download. I'm really hating that autocomplete. It's driving me crazy. We'll make our way back here, give it a nice refresh. We need that button center. We probably don't need padding on the top because we already have padding on the heading bottom there. Unless we were to put a border bottom on that, which I think I have in the design. So I'm just gonna do that quickly there. We'll say 220, 220, 220. Flip on back. I really don't feel like there's enough border on the area. Let's just tap that up. There you go, that's a bit better. And I really do not like the height on here, so I'm just gonna go 16 pixels. There we go, that's looking a little bit better. So we don't need a min height on our area, but we should have one on our area content. So we'll do that. So that one actually has an area content. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that a few other places. We know that we will have a button on the practice deck, so we'll just do that. And I'm just going to, I guess I didn't take the area content with me. Okay. And for these, we will go ahead and do this. Oops. Come on. I think I'm pasting that inside the area heading. And we're just missing it for this one down below. And we just want to center those. So these are components. So that's the thing is like, we have an area here. And so we could create component stylings for each of those ones, but because it's still pretty generic, I'd probably rather put an exam show. Like I don't feel like I'm justified making a separate SASS file for it. So that's why we're going to do it this way. So I'll go here and I'll just actually do a little bit top level here. So we had, it was cheat sheet and we had deck. It was called. And so these are centered. So we'll just say area content. We could say text align center here. We don't have to do a flex here because it's just a display inline and that's going to respond to that. So it's a little bit simpler. I want those buttons a little bit bigger. Again, I wouldn't put in like big on this. I would just style it on these individually. And these are actually the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I will just say button, and I'm just going to give it more padding. So I'm going to say 12, 24. I'm going to bump this up to 16 pixels. Okay. And so, I mean, this is generally, all you need to know. There are media queries. Media queries are a little bit more complex. Not something I really want to cover right now. But, for cutting something up, this looks pretty good to the original here. And hopefully you learned a bit here, but you can have a sense of how long it even takes me to cut up a page. So like if I had something like this could take me an hour to 2 hours to cut up from scratch. If I already have all my utilities and like all my CSS set up, it's going to be a lot faster than that. And most of the time I can eyeball stuff, or if you have the values here, it's pretty darn easy. So there you go.